Donald Trump's deputy assistant Sebastian Gorka has not confirmed the reports about his Libya division plan. He'll be facing much stronger candidates if the White House is to appoint a Libya envoy soon. Nonetheless, listening to echoes about dividing Libya made many alarmed here in the region.
There may be a plan that some countries, including the US and England, are seeking. Dividing Libya is not a new concept. We've been mainly relying on the Libyan street and the nationalists to avoid the division from becoming a reality.
Libya is already politically divided. It has two central banks, two governments, and sometimes more. What has been preventing that division to grow into independent states is oil. The lucrative oil fields known as the Crescent have been well controlled by the Libyan National Army in the east. Shall the country get divided, all non-eastern territories would be relatively poorer.
There have been recent efforts to divide the National Petroleum Association. Some federalists have been calling for that to split it into an eastern and western division. If this happens, this is what would split Libya. Libya is in an extremely tough position.
General Khalifa Haftar, who commands the Eastern Armed Forces, has not been fond of dividing the country, but the support he's been getting lately, particularly from Russia, has left some Western countries worried. It's maybe why many are wondering where Trump stands. Despite continuous US airstrikes against ISIL in Libya, the White House has not been speaking much about the North African country, and it's still not clear who will Trump support. The powerless government of National Accord backed by the United Nations, or the Eastern government, which has a stronger grip over its territories. Adel EL Mahrouky, CGTN, Cairo.
Let's get you more details on that story. I'm joined live on the line from Washington by our correspondent Daniel Wrenches. Daniel, what credence should we give to these reports that a top Trump official wants to divide Libya?
Well, this top Trump official is known as Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and he's been in the most sort of trouble politically that I've ever seen in my career of any foreign policy individual inside the White House. Firstly, there is a question over whether he has been given top-level national security clearance to look at intelligence. Secondly, there are questions over this individual's application to become a US citizen when he came into the country. Thirdly, there are many foreign policy experts who've called into question his credentials as an expert in national security policy. And fourthly, he's an ally of Stephen Bannon, who, as we've been reporting over the past week or so, has become less influential inside the White House as a new national security advisor took root, H.R. McMaster. So the fact that he's come up with a policy and clearly wants to have a job as a special envoy for Libya is, interesting, and we need to take note of his policy ideas. But at the same time, there are many doubts over whether he is as influential now as he possibly was at the beginning of the administration.
Have we any clearer idea of what President Donald Trump's policy towards Libya is and what we can expect from Americans?
Well, we had the visit of the NATO Secretary General to Washington, and that signaled to us that Donald Trump was taking a more conventional route on foreign policy matters that touched NATO. So that would include the fighting of terrorism in the North African region, and it would also include the influence of Russia. Donald Trump has pivoted towards a much stronger stance in terms of Russian influence. We know that Libya is a key European issue, given that it's so close to Europe, and also because of the refugee issues that are emanating out of there. So I imagine that he's taking a more centrist position, and that centrist position, based on the previous Obama administration, was to be very careful about overtly taking sides militarily, whilst also backing the government of national accord, which, after all, has been endorsed by the UN Security Council.
All right, Daniel Branch is on the line for us from Washington. Thank you for joining us.